41st comeback. How do you guys keep doing this?
I mean, we've done it so many times, so yeah, that was exciting.
The drought is over! 20 years of waiting has come to an end here in Pittsburgh! It's time to party in Miami!
There's certain athletes on this planet that when the lights shine brightest, you have a certain suspicion that something special is about to happen. For Jazz Chisholm Jr. against the best team in baseball in the Atlanta Braves and his sparring mate, Ronald Acuna Jr., he showed he was ready for that moment. The Prince crowned himself in Miami Marlins franchise history when he hit back-to-back Grand Slams in consecutive days. He was the first player to do so, and he did it in the most Jazz way when the Marlins needed all the wins they could get. Welcome into Marlins Rerun. I'm Steven Strom. This is Kyle Seeloff. And Kyle, this was the exclamation point for me as far as if the Marlins were going to make a postseason chase and actually get themselves into October baseball, they needed to face a team in the Atlanta Braves that had 90 wins at the time. They were undisputedly the best team in baseball. But after this sweep, I remember thinking, we got a pretty good chance to get to October.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to kind of go back even before the Braves series a little bit and take a look. The Marlins were sputtering a little bit. They were hovering. They were a half game up in the wild card race. They were in second in the wild card chase. They were in third. They'd fall a half game back. They'd fall a game back. And it was an extremely important series in one regard. It was a team they could not beat, ever. And they were, at times, non-competitive games. And it did feel like at the time the season was hinging upon the Marlins' success that weekend against the Braves. If that weekend goes south, they probably don't go to the postseason. And yes, as we sit here today and talk about Jazz Chisholm Jr., and his impact on this team, his impact was felt when he was on the field this season. Throughout the course of his career, that has not always been the case. And he just showed everybody that weekend what he's capable of doing when he's healthy.
That's always been the big question. Always.
We said this multiple times. The best ability is availability. And when Jazz can give you that kind of effort and that impact, you saw it from one night to the next. 2 consecutive swings, 8 RBIs, 2 Grand Slams, the first time in franchise history. It really did. It punctuated really not just a great weekend, but a sweep. But it felt like they went from 5th gear to 6th gear for those final 15 or 20 games to get themselves into the postseason.
Kyle, we could literally do 3 episodes on 3 of these games. These were crazy games. The Marlins outscored Atlanta 36-13, obviously sweeping them. 9-6 game 1, 11-5 game 2, 16-2 in game 3. But we'll start here for game 2. This was another hectic game. Atlanta jumped out to that early 3-0 lead against Brian Hoeing, and everyone's thinking, okay, the Braves are stepping their foot on the gas. They're going to bounce back here today. And then you just saw the resilient Marlins that we've seen all season long. The second deck home run, Grand Slam from Jazz Chisholm Jr. was absolutely sensational, incredible. But what are some of the things that you remember, I guess, from that at-bat or from the energy of the game completely shifting after he hit that Grand Slam?
I remember feeling a little different. It felt like something was going to happen, and you don't say that at all points during the season, where it just feels something. You feel a sense of energy. There's a buzz. There's something that's starting to boil over. It feels like something is about to happen. I think you said it terrific when you open things up. Jazz can be one of those guys where it's, I don't know if you want to go as far as to say must-watch TV when he comes to the plate, but it feels like at times it gets to that with him, and he wants to rise to the occasion. If the bases are loaded, Jazz, if you're down a run, down 3 runs, he wants the bat in his hands. He wants to stand right here where I'm sitting and face that guy 60 feet, 6 inches away. So it felt like it was all coming to a head in that particular at-bat situation during the season. Jazz, he was ready for it. I felt like he was ready for that moment, and he did what he had to do in spectacular fashion. And by the way, I think it's important to note as well, the Marlins did catch the Braves at the right time because they were coming off winning the division in that really feisty series in Philadelphia. And I thought the Marlins benefited in that regard. I think that's just kind of open and honest about the situation the Braves were in. I did feel like they might have pedaled it back a little bit, but the Marlins capitalized. And we talked. Yes, Acuna got hurt. We talked about it all season long. You know, everybody wanted to knock the Marlins because in the first half they were winning a ton. They didn't beat anybody good. You got to beat them. Yeah. They all count. A win is a win is a win. And Jazz propelled them, but it was an entire team culminative effort.
We're going to hear from Jazz Chisholm Jr. because he felt like this was the moment where things started to turn in the clutch for him. A lot of times he was overthinking certain situations. He wanted to be that guy, but Jazz felt like this particular weekend propelled him for the rest of 2023 in those clutch situations.
I mean, I feel like it was a very much like maturing at bat, like knowing what you could do in a clutch situation, especially like for me, like I feel like that's where after that, anything that happened like late off in the game, I felt like during the season I was clutch. Like I hit a homer, I hit a double, sac fly. I felt like I was doing everything after that. I feel like that changed my whole narrative on like what I need to do to be great as a hitter. You know what I mean? Like it showed me like, bro, you just hit the ball to center field, you're gonna be good. Like stop trying to pull a baseball, stop trying to go all the way to left field line, just stay to the middle. You got enough power for that. And when you're not trying, you still go to the upper deck, so have fun.
It's always great to hear from Jazz, and Kyle. We'll move here to Sunday, Game 3, an opportunity at the sweep. And again, Miami going up against a guy in Charlie Morton, veteran, winner, and Jazz Chisholm Jr. in the third inning with the bases loaded on a first pitch fastball that Morton tried to get by him, absolutely sent this into dead center and gave the Marlins a 5-1 lead, or a 5-0 lead.
Right, and that is, I think, when everybody kind of started to feel like they're going to sweep the Braves. You know, Jazz, he does it again. He does it against Morton, a guy that has a ton of success, that deadly curveball against the Marlins, but has had a lifetime, a ton of career success against Miami. And obviously, you know, the comebacks and come from behind victories Friday, Saturday, the way they kind of won those games, and then Jazz does it again, right? And it's just, again, you know, we've talked about it so much, the impact that he can have when he's on the field. Those clutch situations, late in the season, team with an opportunity to go to the playoffs. Jazz is there. He can create something. He can spark something. He's not scared of the bright lights. He's not scared of the big moment. And it was a massive weekend for the Marlins when you take a look at the entirety of 2023 and look at everything that they accomplished, everything that led up to it. All the success in the first half, the struggles in the second half, but they got hot at the right time. And yes, this obviously we're talking about Jazz and all of his success, but it felt like it all came together, and it didn't matter what they did that weekend. Everybody was having success. That included Jazz, but every little thing that they did, they were finding success, and that was what was really fun to watch.
Absolutely, Kyle. And going back to Jazz just becoming clutch for that rest of the year, there was a lot of moments after that, and that's all it takes sometimes for a player in that moment. You know how bad, like sometimes Jazz has that puppy dog syndrome where you just squeeze, like he just wants to be a part of those big moments so badly. He finally was rewarded this weekend. And then if we even look ahead, the hit against the Mets that ended up not counting against a lefty, then he had a home run in Pittsburgh. He had some big time hits closing that season to really wrap things up for Miami.
Yeah, and I think, you know, at least for me personally, when I think about Jazz and we talk about Grand Slams, I feel like it's a guy that at some point is really, truly going to understand he doesn't have to be a hero. And it's when he falls back a little bit and tries to take a little bit of that pressure off is when we find that he might be most successful. When he doesn't feel like every night he has to hit 2 home runs and drive in 4 and put the team on his back. Yep. They have a lot of really good players, and Jazz is one of them. And he's one of 9. He's one of 26. If he does his part, he is spectacular. He's extremely, extremely talented. If he just does his part and he plays up to his potential and stays healthy, I felt like the end of the season was a microcosm as to what's to come for Jazz. If he can stay healthy, he has to stay healthy.
So the Grand Slam on Saturday, the Grand Slam on Sunday, we had a chance to ask Jazz, was he thinking about hitting back-to-back Grand Slams and back-to-back games in that moment against Charlie Morton?
Oh, 100%. Me and my teammates were definitely talking about it in the clubhouse before the game, and we wanted it. Like, we wanted it as a team. It wasn't even just me that wanted it. My whole team wanted it. And it was just fun to see. Like I said, everybody had my back, man. Like, everybody wanted me to be who I was going to be that day, you know what I mean?
Jazz, always confident and honest. You never can blame the man for anything from that standpoint. Alrighty, Kyle. This was my favorite weekend here at Lone Depot Park. The sweeping of Atlanta, back-to-back Grand Slams. Congratulations again to Jazz Chisholm Jr. This was awesome. As always, we appreciate the support. We'll be on YouTube. You can also get it in podcast form. Just follow us at Marlins Radio. We've got you covered all off season long. Thanks for listening and watching to Marlins Rerun. I'm Steven Strom. That's Kyle Seeloff. Have a great day.